according to Shams, the Los Angeles Lakers guard Gabe Vincent is strongly considering surgery on his left knee with a timetable of 6 to 8 weeks. League sources tell The Athletic and at Stadium. Vincent's rehabbed for almost 2 months for return, but the swelling is back and procedure is now a real likelihood. So Gabe Vincent came back for a game. We thought he was ready to go, take a couple games to kind of get back into a flow, get back into a rhythm. No big deal, but we need him, right? Best defensive guard we have, point of attack guy. He was supposed to kind of, fill in for the Dennis Schroeder role. Little injury, okay, injuries happen. Come back, let's go. Well, now it looks like that's completely out the window. And if he's out 6 to 8 months, you're talking 2 months, right? Maybe a month and a half that he's very likely going to miss for the Lakers. And he's only played 5 games this season. So it's like, at that point, what do we do if you're the Lakers, right? As far as Gabe Vincent goes, right, this season, again, it's hard to know where does he impact the Lakers when we haven't gotten to see him play, right? And because, again, the 5 games isn't a huge sample size. Now, shooting the 3 ball, he's been atrocious this year, right? From 3-point range, he did up his 3-point total from 0.073% to 0.118%, which is still, so now he's shooting 1% from the field. But again, on 3.5 attempts per game, just is 2 of 15 or 2 of 17 from 3 this season. 5 points, 3 assists, 1 rebound, 1.2 steals, which is good. In about 25 minutes of play in the 5 games that he did play for us. The Lakers also changed their starting lineup, so it would have made sense to, if Gabe Vincent was healthy, right? If D'Lo's going to the bench, maybe at some point you put Gabe Vincent in at the point. Maybe you go something like Vincent, Prince, Reddish, LeBron and AD, or you could go Vando instead, whatever, however you want to approach it. And you still maintain that defense. If Gabe Vincent can kind of get back to being a 38% 3-point shooter, right? Guys have slumps. It happens. Austin Reeves was atrocious shooting the 3 ball. At one point, he was 20%, 10 games in or 12 games in or whatever. And since then, he's really kind of gotten back to being a quality 3-point shooter. Same thing with D'Lo. He was shooting atrocious to start the season. And since then, he got to about 40%. Prince had that rough stretch. So the idea, the hope, the vision was okay, Gabe Vincent comes back, gets in a flow, give him, a handful of games or so, get into a rhythm. He'll be able to play defense, be a point of attack guard. He would be excellent against, especially the Western Conference, because you have all these guys that every night have an elite point guard or an elite guard. So having Gabe Vincent, whether he starts, comes off the bench, would be very impactful. He's the perfect kind of complementary point guard next to a LeBron James, especially if LeBron James is embracing that playmaking role and kind of being the point guard. Having a guy like a Gabe Vincent in the mold of a George Hill, a Avery Bradley, a Mario Chalmers, right? Those 3-and-D style point guards. Gabe Vincent ideally seems to fit perfectly. And then you add in the fact that this is a guy that has proven that moments aren't too big for him. He relishes in the playoffs. A big question mark with him is, can he replicate the playoff success in the regular season, similar to a Rui Hachimura. Rui Hachimura with the Wizards and the Lakers have had excellent playoff success individually, right? But the regular season has always been a question mark for him. That was kind of the question going into the season for Gabe Vincent. It's something we even talked about here on the channel when we signed him. Because he was one of the kind of bigger acquisitions. He was kind of one of the bigger trades. It was oh man, this is a guy. Very similar to a couple years ago now when Kendrick Nunn was the big signing, the big trade guy, the guy that elevated his game in the playoffs, the guy that, was big in a finals game for the Miami Heat, all of that. We end up signing Kendrick Nunn on a ridiculously good deal at the time. People were shocked that we were able to get Gabe Vincent for, the taxpayer mid-level. It was $5.6 million, and we got him for 2 years. It was man, there's no way we got this guy for that cheap. All the hype, all the excitement. That was the time I believe we got Malik Monk too. And it was man, we got these young, talented guards. Let's go. Kendrick Nunn ends up getting hurt, misses the season. There's all the hope, all the excitement. Okay, he's coming back. He's going to be great. And yeah, the Lakers ended up shipping him out, ended up trading him. Sorry, I'm still a little sick here. But yeah, like it just didn't work out. And it's just like the Lakers need to avoid Miami guards at this point, right? Every time we get one of Miami's guards, now we're 0 for 2 so far. Now, again, Gabe Vincent, he's not out for the season, right? But at that point, I mean, he's missed half of it. And if he does come back and he is healthy, he's still a guy that can absolutely make an impact. He's a guy that could be a big factor, right? Like the problem with like the Kendrick Nunn thing is like when Kendrick Nunn came back, he was like unplayably bad, right? Like that was the problem because he couldn't defend, and the whole point of getting him was his offense, right? This is a guy that could put the ball in the hoop. He shot, 38, 40% from three. Like he was a guy that was perceived as like, oh, he would be a great scoring option, even whether it's a starting or a 6-man role for the Lakers, especially after we lost Malik Monk. It was like, okay, well, you still got Kendrick Nunn. And then he was just, again, unplayable. Gabe Vincent, he hasn't been unplayable. He's still been good in the defensive side of things. And I do think he will be consistent for the Lakers if he can get healthy, right? Even if the offense isn't falling, he's still a guy that can, will show up big in the playoffs, that isn't afraid of the moment, which the Lakers, once they get to the playoffs, they're going to need guys like that. But secondly, I do think, I don't think he's going to be 1% from 3-point range bad, right? Can he even get to like 34%, right? Because at that point, he's respectable. Teams have to at least respect his three. League average is around 35%. So if he can just get at least around league average and then defensively lock in, I think that he has value on this Lakers team. But the other problem is if the Lakers planned on trading him at any point, that probably went out the window, right? Because no team is going to want to take on Kendrick Nunn, hey, I mean, right at this point, he might as well be Kendrick Nunn. But Gabe Vincent, I'm going to leave that in the video because that was great. But Gabe Vincent, right, he's the guy that, he's at a reasonable contract to where it made sense. Like, oh, you could use him to go get another piece, maybe go get a center, maybe go get something, right? If a team needs like a veteran or whatever, or the rebuilding or whatever, like, there's flexibility there. Also, he's a guy that teams may be interested in, especially in a backup point guard role. Again, he's big in the playoffs, right? He would have had some trade value at his price, which people thought he was going to get paid more this offseason. But at his price, many perceived it as very valued. A 3-year deal at that price. So it's not like, we're trading for him for a year and then that's it. Well, now it's like, what team wants to take the chance on that? Now, if you're trading for, say, like a Zach LaVine, then, Chicago, they may take him just because it's like, okay, well, we're not winning anything this year anyway. He'd be good if we do end up making the playoffs. And another thing is like, we'd rather pay $11 million a year for the next 3 years, or 2.5 years at that point, than pay $45 million a year over the next like 3 years. So I get that, like, there's still maybe that value in that sense. But as far as like using him as like a piece to go and acquire something that may be a bigger need, maybe go get another wing player, or maybe go get, like I said, a center. Maybe we were using him to package to go get like a Valanciunas or something, right? Like, but now it's like, what do you do? At this point, it's like, how do you move him? Especially if he's out 6 to 8 weeks. I mean, he would, at best case scenario, he would come back like right before the trade deadline. Like literally, like right before. But teams are going to want to evaluate him. Teams are going to want to see him on the basketball court. But he has to get the surgery, right? Like you tried not to go the surgery route, and you tried to come back, and it didn't work. So are you really not going to go the surgery route again? Because even if the Lakers don't trade him, we still could use him come playoff time, right? If the Lakers, let's say they do trade D'Lo, or they trade, whoever, like Rui and D'Lo, or even if they don't make a trade, let's say they stand pat, right? And they don't make any trade. Gabe Vincent would be very valuable come playoffs. So we've already gotten through this far without him. So I don't see us having a problem getting through the rest of the season without him, or, the 6 to 8 weeks without him. And then he comes back, say, mid-February or whatever, and then hopefully he can kind of get into the flow of things and he's ready to go come playoff time. That's the idea. That's the hope, right? So I think he's going to end up making the surgery. I don't know. Like, the reports say, he's considering it. Just do it. Like, all you're doing is prolonging it even farther. Let's say it takes him a week to come to that conclusion. It's like, well, that's a week longer that you're going to be out when you could have already been back by now, right? If you would have just gotten the surgery when you first got the injury, guess what? You'd probably be back by now. So that's my problem. That's where this lies. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion, so I pass the question on to you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. Do you think Lakers need to avoid heat guards at all costs now? What do you think of this injury? Are you disappointed? Do you think hey, it's no big deal? We've gotten through it thus far without him. We'll be fine. Again, however you feel, whatever your thoughts are, I would love to hear it. So let me know down in the comments below. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. It helps me out a lot. Lets me know you enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. If you're not subscribed to the channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one. Thank you.